All right, welcome back to the Martin Take. We have a special episode outside of our normal songs. I know we talked about doing Star Set in our next episode. That is coming up in 3 weeks from now because we're going to make this a full episode. But on for today, we have our 2022 Apple year-end recap. So basically, it's very similar to what Spotify does with their wrap of the year. Apple has their own version now, and we decided to talk about it. The reason we wanted to talk about it, a lot of interesting data that's come about of that, and something that obviously me and Brendon are both very passionate about in music. So we thought it'd be fun to kind of go down through a different setup as normal and just kind of give our recap of 2022. So I'm going to kind of give a brief update of what we're going to be talking about. And then we're going to kick it down through and just kind of have fun enjoying what me and Brendon listened to in 2022. So we're going to start off by kicking into our top 3 genres, which, spoiler alert, it's going to be very simple. From there, we're going to go to our top 5 artists, and then we're going to be doing staggering each artist. So basically, we're going to go through our top 5 artists, and I'm going to go my 5, Brendon's going to go his 5, we're going to go down through. From there, we're going to do the same thing with top 5 albums of 2022. So stagger it, my number 5, his number 5, and go down through. And then we're going to go to top 5 songs of 2022. Now, what this is based on is not our take of this is our favorite songs. This is what we listen to the most. So basically, one thing to keep in mind is that my top 5 songs are not a reflection of my actual top 5 songs of all time. It was just what I listened to the most this year. So just really excited to go through that. So yeah, let's kick it off with genres, Brendon. Actually, I don't know if we want to, before we jump into that, we should maybe give a total list of minutes of music that we listened to in 2022, because I listened to a lot.
Yeah. Yes, what is yours?
So I listened to 69,682 minutes of music, which comes out to 1,161 hours of music. I was going to go through and calculate how many minutes are in a year. There's 525,000 minutes in a year. So, how much percent of that? I'm just going to do rough math, but I listen to music 13% of the entire year. So that includes waking and sleeping, which, wow, that's a lot. I mean, I do listen to quite a bit of music, but how many minutes did you have?
So, 83,505. But as we talked about some earlier off mics, I think some of my music listening has been, I use my computer at work to listen to music sometimes, and so sometimes I'll just leave it on, and I think sometimes that can play over the weekend or something. So it's a little higher than active listening for sure, but it's crazy. A lot of time listening to music.
Do you know how many different artists you listen to, Brendon?
It's I have a good mix, but I don't think it's crazy because I think I do a lot of repeat listening, and even when I do my personal station on Apple Music, even that sometimes if I'm looking for new music, I have to go and do something else because that ends up replaying most artists that I've played a lot of already.
It's interesting. Apple Music said I listened to 1,351 artists.
Oh, okay.
Wow. And then I also listened to 6,227 songs.
How many artists was that again? I just pulled up my artists.
1,351.
Okay, 1,676.
Okay, so you still had 300 more than I did. Okay.
Yeah.
What about songs? How many songs did you listen to? Like I said, I listened to 6,227.
6,927.
Oh wow! So we're actually pretty close on not a lot of those. And then finally, what about albums? I listened to 614 albums.
323 albums. See.
Wow. So I don't know how that makes sense. So how? Yeah. So is that just how many times I click shuffle on an album? I don't
know how they count album stuff.
Yeah. We should maybe have looked into how they count it, because that's kind of the way this data was pulled is kind of a little bit interesting, because I'm I guess it seems right, but I don't know what do they I guess a next question would be how do you qualify what a play of a song is? Because YouTube, right. I think it counts as 10 seconds into a movie. It counts as a watch. Is it something with Apple 10 seconds in? Okay, this counts as a watch instead of just being click on it, play it, or whatever. If that makes sense.
Yeah, no, that stuff is interesting, and yeah, I feel like I'm looking at data like this. Like sometimes you're like, this just doesn't make sense,
Right.
or whatever. So I don't know what they do, and I mean I'm sure it's all, they have it AI whatever worked to kind of calculate this stuff, and I mean they must have some technical parameters, but I think it's some of that's a little hit or miss. But
Yeah.
I mean,
for sure.
pretty much like even on like songs and stuff, like counting a song should be pretty good because usually you either skip a song right away or you listen to the whole song. Like it's not that much that you're like listening to half a song all the time.
I do. I'm a
You do?
horrible
Oh,
person.
okay.
I do. Yeah, I do. It's because I'll get into it. I'm like, I really want this next song, and then I'll play the next song.
Okay. Yeah, I've done that. But anyway.
All right, so that's
yeah.
cool. So let's kick it to top 3 genres. So basically, like I said, we're gonna stagger. So for genres, can we just do it all at once?
Why don't we do the full, like, what does it give you? 2, 5?
I just did 3. Actually, let me go back and find it. I can pull it.
Yeah, because it gave me a total of 5, and they're all like we were talking some earlier. I think like the top ones end up being kind of similar for us.
Yeah.
Here, I'll give mine a while. So my 5 top is starting from the top to bottom. It's alternative, adult alternative, rock, indie rock, and pop. So
wait, okay, that's literally the exact same what mine is. Mine's alternative, adult alternative, rock, indie rock, and pop.
Okay.
That's the exact same as mine. So that seems a little bit suspicious. Like I don't know if it's exactly the same.
Well, and
but
if you ever try to look at like the genres section of your music, like what gets counted in what genre is kind of like
right.
It's
So
hard
that
to
was the
kinda
other thing.
Quantify it.
Right. That's what I think I'm talking about. Like they have Switchfoot as some of their stuff is rock, and they have 21 Pilots as some of their songs as rock. So it's like, well, what is actually rock? I don't actually know what it's tough. And how do you quantify that? Or qualify that? I mean,
Right.
yeah, I don't know. Interesting stuff. So we're going to kind of skip over genres because there's not much data there. We listen to alternative music. Okay, like our top 3 genres are basically alternative.
Well, what do you feel like your main other stuff is beyond alternative?
It would have to be rock by the definition of rock.
Yeah.
I don't
What
listen
is
to
that with Switchfoot? Are you qualifying?
Yeah,
as
right,
rock?
exactly. So by the definition of rock, I would listen to more. I listen to alternative the most for sure, but then rock. But basically, when I'm saying rock, I'm not talking about like hard metal stuff. I'm talking, I would listen to like some Green Day, which would be actual rock, but I listen to a lot of like Switchfoot. I'm trying to think of some other artists that I would listen to. Like even there's some camp songs that are considered rock. There's some.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of my favorite band. Like there's just a lot of bands out there that I would consider alternative as a whole, but some of their songs are considered rock, which throws it in there.
Yep. Yeah, I think mine is probably kind of similar.
I'm assuming you're similar, yeah.
Yeah.
So let's kick it to artists, and this is where I'm going to be interested to see. So let's just kind of breeze down through this quite a bit here, but I'm going to go first with my number 5, then we'll kick it over to your number 5. But at number 5 for me, and I am appreciative of my true to myself because my top 5 artists of 2022 there's 3 of my top 5 all time, and there's my number 6 and number 7 of all time. But at number 5, I have 21 Pilots with 1,706 minutes of listening or 28.43 hours of music. So basically a little over a day of listening to them. But yeah, I was at a 21 Pilots concert this year, and man, their music is just incredible. Definitely, they're in my top 5 all time. And I just really enjoyed their music. But
how many minutes was it again?
1,706 or 28 hours.
This is kind of interesting. So on my top 10, my 10th one, that is 1,800 minutes, and everything else is higher than that, obviously.
So you listen. I would listen to a lot more artists than you do because like it seems like you're concentrated more at the top, where I'm probably a little bit more spread out.
Yeah, something. It's interesting.
Well, what do you have at your number 5?
Yeah, 21 Pilots is cool. My number 5 is Mumford Sons.
Okay, that's good.
2,095 minutes. And whatever that calculates into hours. Yeah.
Wow. Let me look at where I had Mumford & Sons at 7. I had him at 7. Interesting. Okay. But I had him at 1,600 minutes.
Yeah, I have noticed because of what we're doing this year.
I was just about to say, yeah.
Yeah, it has definitely tainted my data because I would not like. There's a lot of artists we've already covered have made it into this top 10 or top 5 because I've just and we've talked about this before. I tend to like when we're preparing for this, like I will spend often it varies some, but I will spend like a week or 2 doing a lot of dedicated listening, and then usually that artist kind of sticks around for me even afterward. And you do a lot more, like a much shorter time.
Yeah, intensive listening. But that's very interesting, Brendon, because like if I look at my top 5 or my top 10, a lot of them we've done as artists, which is very interesting.
Yeah, and it definitely, I feel like if new albums come out in the same year, that definitely affects it too.
It helps,
I'll just
for
be
sure.
more likely.
Yeah.
But yeah.
And this is not reflective, again, just for our audience, this is not a reflective of our top songs. Again, this is just what we listened to this year. And there's going to be things that skew this data, like we've talked about with doing the podcast, new albums coming out. So this is more of just an entertaining thing than being like, oh, this is what they listen to all the time.
Yeah.
But at my number 4, I digress. Digress is my favorite word right now. I digress. At number 4, I have the Lumineers, also in my top 5 all time. I have them at 1,983 minutes or 33 hours. Great artists. I am hoping to see them live in June in Italy, actually. My brother and my sister and me, I told my sister I'd pay for her to go to any country in the world that she wanted to go to when she graduated high school, which she's graduating in 2023. So we are taking a week-long trip to Italy, and I'm paying for it for her. And I said the one thing I really want to do is the Lumineers are in Rome the exact time we would be there. So I'm like, and she wanted to go to Italy, so I'm like, well, let's just go see them live. So I'm really hoping to see them live in 2023. I'm very excited about that. But yeah, they come in at number 4 for me.
Nice, cool. For number 4 for me, I have Death Cab.
I had the number 10. They were at number 10.
Okay. Yep. Yeah. At 2,265 minutes.
Wow, that's a lot of minutes. Good grief.
Yeah. Yeah. No,
I had
my top one is pretty high. 1,300? Okay. Yeah.
1,300. Yeah. Good artists. I mean, great. They have so much music. I wonder how many minutes of music they have, because they have a lot.
Yeah. Yeah, and I feel like I'm coming, like I feel like this later part of the year I haven't been listening to them, but just like recently in the last few weeks as we head into winter, I'm like, I think it's time to bring them back.
Cool. Well, my number 3, I have the Strumbellas at number 3 with 2,132 minutes or about 35 hours. Great artists. Again, we did them on the podcast, but they have one of my favorites. I will spoil this. One of their albums is in my top 5 most listened to of this year.
Okay. Yeah.
So yeah, number 3. What do you have at number 3?
I have Snow Patrol at 2,499 minutes. Yeah, I'm actually a little surprised that I have it that high.
Surprising. Yeah, I didn't have them anywhere in my top 10.
I think this is one of those artists that was definitely skewed by us doing them on the podcast because I don't like
Snow Patrol that much. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I really like them, and I kind of like going in and out with them, but I had only a couple like albums that I would listen to that much from them, or a couple main songs, and then after the podcast, I started listening to a few more albums and like really getting. And I can mention this now because it's not on my top albums, but Fallen Empires is an album that I'd heard before, but really stood out when we did the prepping for the podcast. So I ended up I've re-listened to that a ton this year now.
Yeah, I mean, their music's really good except for the first 2 albums.
Yeah.
Oh, they were horrible.
A little rough.
Yeah. Cool. Well, my number 2, and this is the band that this year has really taken on a new meaning for me that I really enjoy, but Band of Horses. They are a band that I've always listened to in the past, but for some reason this year, man, they have just killed it for me this year. I would love to see them live sometime. But I listened to them 2,144 minutes, or again, 35 hours. The Strumbellas and the Band of Horses, I listened to within 8 minutes of each other, which is very interesting. But yeah, I love the Band of Horses. Their music is so good. Also have one of their albums in my top 5 for this year. And I also have one of their songs in my top 5 most played from this year. So definitely great alternative band. Probably one of the best, actually. One of my favorite alternative bands. I think they come in at number 7 all time for me, and so my first and Strumbellas came at number 6. So basically, so far my top 4 or my 2 through 5 have been in all my top 7, which really good artists.
Yeah. For my number 2, The Head and the Heart, 2,699 minutes.
Head and the Heart was number. Yeah, Head and the Heart had 8. I was at number 8 for me.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Yeah,
which podcast
super solid.
Helped.
Love them. Yeah, podcast for sure. Again, affected that a little bit, but yeah.
All right. Without further ado, my number 1. I don't think this is going to be any surprise if you've heard about me talk about this band. But who do you think my number 1 is? Actually, I'll have you guess. Who do you think my number 1 is?
Shoot. I'm trying to think now because you.
Who's my
have
favorite
mentioned-
artist of all time?
Oh yeah. Well, yeah, it's gonna be Switchfoot.
It is Switchfoot. Yes,
Yeah.
at number 1, Switchfoot. And this is what's staggering. I listened to them 3,834 minutes.
Oh,
That's
dang.
64 hours. Basically, almost double my number 2. So
Yeah.
literally, I almost listened to double as much. And the reason being, me and Dante, my roommate, one of my closest friends, we went to 2 of their concerts this year. One in Hershey, Pennsylvania, one in Reading, Pennsylvania. I can't get enough of their music. Just absolutely phenomenal. Definitely my favorite artist of all time right now. I just can't get enough of their music. I will say I have one of their songs and one of their albums, both my top 5 this year. But man, I could not get enough Switchfoot this year. They were just incredible, just absolutely phenomenal.
Wow, that's crazy. I was kind of wondering what your top one would be. As far as total minutes, because like mine have kind of been consistently stepping up, but yours were all kind of holding the same. But
that
it's
like
that's
all
skewed for
the top
sure.
4 were 28 hours to 35 hours, and then there's also 64 hours. So
yeah,
I am
nuts.
intrigued. What do you have at your number 1? Because I'm going to be very intrigued what you have at your number 1.
I'm not surprised by my number 1. But I've talked about them some before. But number 1, Jimmy Eat World.
Okay, sure.
2,943 minutes.
Oh wow! So your number 1 wasn't even close to my number 1 in minutes. That's very interesting.
That's because your number 1 was like double your number 2. Like
Yeah,
mine
yeah,
all
that
have
is
kind of
true,
like
yeah.
I can
Staggered up. Yeah.
Yeah, I went from what Head in the Heart was like 2,700 and Jimmy Eat World is 2,900. So yeah, no,
Interesting.
love them, and that was part of the skewing for that. I'll hold off on that. There's a specific album that I think will come up in albums. That was like I just replayed that so many times this year. It was so good. But no, real well, and
Cool.
and actually, this year is the year I actually got super into Jimmy Eat World. I've like listened to them off and on, for like 5 or 10 years, but this year was like the year that they suddenly like for whatever reason came back into my mind and went crazy down that
You definitely
path.
talked about them a lot
Yeah.
this year. Like I remember
It's-
you just like in passing conversation, you'd just be like talking about them all the time.
Yeah, I went down a rabbit hole this year, but anyway, yeah, that's the albums.
Cool. Oh, that was the artist. Let's kick into
Artists,
albums
sorry,
now.
yeah.
Yeah, let's kick into albums. And this one's going to be a little bit interesting because I definitely can see this is skewed by our podcast for me specifically. But at my number 5, I have Vice Versus by Switchfoot at my number 5.
That's a good one.
It's a really good album. Probably my favorite by them. They have, The Light Shines Through is probably my favorite album by them, but this is a killer. This one has Where I Belong, which is my number 1 song of all time. And I listen to that quite a bit, especially if we're going to the concerts, so we just shuffle their music quite a bit. But yeah, number 5, I have Vice Versus by Switchfoot, which actually, let me look up how many times I played that album. I played that album 62 times.
Okay. My number 5 will be a little bit more in plays.
Oh, really? Wow. Because mine are all really consistent on this. So
Okay,
interesting.
this is going to be interesting then.
Yeah.
So you would never guess what my number 5 is, and I was surprised it was here, but I must have done this at work or something. Like, okay, so my number 5 is the Elder Scrolls V Skyrim soundtrack. By,
You've got to
Jeremy
be kidding
Soule.
me.
It's great.
You've got to be kidding me. There's no way.
I'm kind of surprised.
How many
144 plays.
Oh my goodness. Dude, my number 1 only has 94 plays. Your number 5 is 140 plays?
Yes.
Wow.
Here's the thing,
incredible.
though. I think albums is probably the one where the data will be the most skewed as far as like.
Well,
I don't know how you get accurate.
I don't
readings
shuffle. So I would assume it's like if you play multiple songs from an album in a row. Like if you go to the album and either click
Right.
shuffle or click on a song and it plays down through. I don't do that very often. I listen
I've
to
been
playlists.
doing that.
I don't.
I've been doing that more than I've ever done before. Like I've gotten more down that road. But like, how many songs does it take? Because like this Elder Scrolls soundtrack is probably like this is crazy long because it's a soundtrack for a whole game. So like it's I don't know, like 2 hours of music or something.
Is it like orchestra music or is it more like songs? Like
no,
what
it's
type of
all.
music
It's
is it?
all. There's only one song with words. And that's just like the title. The title,
Wow.
like the title song.
Intriguing. That is
But,
wow. So this is
no,
gonna be
I know
interesting.
I know there were times like it depends on. This is something that I will be playing at work. This is very
Yeah.
much about the only time I would play it like and keep it on for a long time. And that would be like when I'm doing. I work in a wood shop and I might be doing general assembly for like 5 hours in a day or something. And if I'm doing stuff like that, then I might put music on like this where I can just kind of zone out kind of let my
Just
mind
do work,
wander and just you get the feels of a game and stuff like and game music, and it's just a good feeling. And I do listen to if we were talking like playlists at all, I do listen to like some soundtrack music and stuff. But
I listen to a lot of playlists.
Very surprised that I actually made it that far into the album ranking thing, but anyway.
For sure. Well, at number 4 for me, I have Hope from the Strumbellas. No surprise there with 68 plays, so not that many more. Your plays are going to kill me this time. But yeah, Hope from the Strumbellas. We did them on the podcast. This is probably my favorite album by them. Really good album. Great songs on it. Really enjoyed it. But yeah, what do you have at your number 4?
My number 4, I either got super into them late last year or it might have just been this year. But Frightened Rabbit with Painting of a Panic Attack.
That is a great album. That is a great
and that's
album.
the album that like really, again, I'd heard of them for years, heard a couple songs that I kind of liked, and then I think it was either late last year or this year I just like
that's probably my favorite album by them. That is such a good album.
Yeah, 147 plays.
Wow,
just a couple more plays, but yeah.
At number 3 for me, Every Shade of Blue from The Head and the Heart.
Yes, that was my number 6.
Oh, okay, cool. How many plays did you? I had 74.
97. It was a big drop off there.
Wow, yeah. But yeah, Every Shade of Blue, Head and the Heart, great. I have a spoiler for my songs list, but I'm going to save that. But yeah, number 3, Every Shade of Blue. So what do you have at number 3?
Number 3, Asphalt Meadows, Death Cab for Cutie.
Oh, that's a good one. How many plays, though? That came out this year, right? That came out this year?
154.
150. That came out in April of this year, right?
Yeah, I played that
came out
heavy,
earlier this year.
Heavy for a bit. Yeah, it was early. It was earlier this year. Yeah.
That's incredible. Like, you must... I listened to that... So, I listened to the Foxgrove song probably 100 and some times. Actually, I didn't listen to that much.
Was it Foxgrove through the clear
Foxgrove through... Yeah, Foxgrove through the meadow or what, something. But that's a really good album. Some really good songs on that. And Asphalt Meadows is a good song. Yeah, just some really good ones from that album.
Yeah, for sure.
At number 2, this is going to surprise you, but I have The Father and the Hunter from the Strumbellas. Two Strumbellas on this. 2 Strumbella albums.
Yeah, I know you really liked that album. A lot more
really
than I did.
like this. Yeah. My favorite song by the Strumbellas is oh wow, I just went completely blank. The Bird That Follows Me from this album.
Yeah.
And when we were doing the Strumbellas, I went on a Strumbellas binge for like 3 weeks, and it's all I listened to. So it's no surprise that I have 2 of their albums in my top 5. But yeah, great album.
Yeah. My number 2.
At 70. Sorry, that had 76 plays.
76.
Yeah,
okay.
76.
Nice.
Yeah, sorry.
My number 2. A little surprised, but not crazy surprised. I have Pep from Lights, and I think that came out this year as well, earlier this year.
Really? How many plays did that have? 150, 160?
171.
171. That is insane.
Yeah, and again, like I know
that's
I
like
wouldn't
once
have
per
done.
day.
That's a quick album though. That's a lot shorter.
Yeah, but
than some of these.
that's like 100. So if that came out in like April, that was like 190 days ago. So that's like shuffling it once or listening to it once per day.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, there are times when, like, probably early when it came out, I would have just replayed it multiple times. Like, I might have.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know, like multiple times in the same day. Yeah, so I don't know, but yeah, no, I was a little surprised. But I do know, like, I'll like Lights is very much a randomly I'll just play Lights.
Right.
And I'll like go down that for like a week or something, and then stop again. But yeah, that's my number 2.
Interesting. Well, at my number 1, I have Cease to Begin by the Band of Horses with 94 plays.
Wow.
Probably their best album. I really, like I said, they were in my number 2 listen to artists from 2022. Oh, that was a lot of 2s. But yeah, Band of Horses, great. Cease to Begin is a great album. Some of the best songs on there. Band of Horses, again, I can't get enough of them. Switchfoot and Band of Horses, man. This year, that was my 2 artists. They and the Strumbellas, those 3.
Yep.
Those 3 were they were all in my, actually they were my, I say they were my 3 favorite bands. They literally were my top 3 listened to bands. Yeah, I just really enjoyed that this year, and yeah, just some great music. Honestly, just I love music so much, and switch to alternative music, and Switchfoot, Band of Horses, and Strumbellas just really fit everything that I love about music, and yeah, just got to listen to a lot this year, which is great.
Yeah, nice.
And finally, your number 1. What was your number 1 album?
Yeah, so this I talked about earlier. It's Jimmy Eat World, and I rediscovered this album, and there was the beginning and mid of this year. I just played this album non-stop. and that is Invented, with 285 plays, and I believe that.
285 plays?
Yes. Yep.
With what again?
Invented by Jimmy.
By
Eat
who?
World. Jimmy Eat World.
285 plays.
Yeah, there. I was playing it
That
every
is
day, multiple times a
insane.
day for a little bit. Yeah.
That is literally almost. No, is it triple? It's over triple as my number one.
Yeah. Yeah, I like every...
Wow.
There was like some highlight songs on that, but I just, in general, thought the whole album, like the flow from song to song was great, and I liked every song reasonably well. So
Wow.
instead of just being like, oh, I want to listen to this random song from an artist or something, I was like, oh, I'll just listen to this whole album as a piece, and I liked the whole piece.
Yeah.
So that's crazy.
Wow.
Like compared to like what you're saying with your albums, and even compared to the rest of my list, it's like 100 plus plays jump from my number 2. But yeah.
That is insane. Wow. Well, very interesting data on art and albums. Again, we don't really calculate. We know how we do not know how it calculates the plays, but yeah, interesting. So let's kick it to songs. And this is gonna be fun for me. But at my number 5, I have my favorite song of all time, "Where I Belong" by Switchfoot. At 57 plays, which seems low because like just the other day I listened to this song probably 3 times in the same day, so I think 57 plays seems a little bit low. But yeah, "Where I Belong" with Switchfoot. Yeah, "Where I Belong" with 57 plays. Honestly, I can't tell you why I love this song. What it stands, words, the lyrics, what it's meaning, and the beat, the smoothness of it. It's such an incredible song that I just thoroughly enjoy. And just can't get enough of it. But yeah, I really, really love this song. An incredible much. Great song.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm just going to check here. I'm noticing on my top 5, I just screenshotted it. Now I want to see what my top 10 was. On my top 5, I don't have a song from Invented on here.
Interesting.
I'm surprised. So now I want to make sure that if I can scroll through this jumping thing. Okay. My only song from Invented was number 10 at 39 plays. Hard is hard to find.
Really?
So I don't know how that works. I feel like the plays are low. But you have similar data to what I have. But so for my number 5 one is "I Wish I Was Sober" by Frightened Rabbit. With 49 plays, but amazing song.
Great song, and it's a great song.
Yeah, his voice in general.
His voice is great. Incredible. His voice is incredible. I just can't get enough of that.
Yeah.
Interesting. Well, at my number 4, I have "The Great Salt Lake" by the Band of Horses with 58 plays.
I'm sure I could still. Oh, the Great Salt Lake.
Great song. I don't know if it's my favorite by them. I think "Funeral" or some of the other ones are probably. "Funeral" is probably my favorite song by them. But this is a great song. I mean, I should look here. Where's my top 5 songs? I probably have a couple. Let me see here. Oh wow, I don't. I only have one Band of Horses song, but I have a lot of Lumineers and Strumbellas songs. Great Salt Lake, great song by the Band of Horses, one of their more popular ones. But yeah, that's a great song.
Yeah, my number 4, "Guiding Light" by Mumford Sons with 49 plays.
That's a good song.
Well, I know I had it all on the line, but don't just sit with folded hands and become blind. 'Cause even when there is no star in sight, you'll always be my own.
Yeah,
That's
it's a
song.
solid one. Yeah. I'm a little surprised that it's.
I listened to
high.
that song yesterday. Actually. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm a little surprised it's this high, but really solid song, and must have been again Yeah, it's weird with music, like you go through like phases, even within the same year, quite a bit. So I'm like, oh, when like that feels like half a year ago that I was like
Yeah.
super into
Yep.
the song or something. But yeah, so what do you have for number 3?
This is an interesting one. This is an artist that's not as well known. I have Vagabond by Camp at 61 plays.
Okay.
Vagabond dreaming takes me through the night. Sipping whiskey by the river, living out of sight. 100 miles an hour in the fast lane. 100 miles an hour toward the light.
This is a phenomenal song by a phenomenal artist that is not as popular because their style is very unique to alternative fans. Like, it's a subgenre. Camp is a subgenre of alternative. Like, he has his own style that's just like different. And Vagabond, oh man, if you get a chance, you have to listen to that song. Maybe we should overplay it on these.
Yeah, I'm gonna listen to it right now because I have heard of maybe a song or two from Camp, but definitely don't think I've heard this one.
Camp I don't think I have him listed in my top 15, but he probably should be. Vagabond is one of my favorite songs of all time, honestly. It is a great song by a great artist. And I actually just saw one of my friends, they were at a Camp concert locally here like 2 months ago, and I can't believe I missed it. So I have like alerts for all of my favorite artists when they come into concert nearby because I don't want to miss it again. Concerts, just as a side tangent, concerts this year have been really big for me. I went to the Green Day and Weezer concert in Stockholm, Sweden. I went to a Garth Brooks concert in Charlotte, North Carolina. I went to 2 Switchfoot concerts, the Killers concert in Philadelphia. I've been to
The National.
The National. We went to the National together. And 21 Pilots, the Killers, yeah, just some great artists, and I just can't get enough of concerts. I thrive on concerts. The crowd energy, my favorite artist, man, just can't get enough of them. But yeah, side little tangent there while you were listening to the song. So what did you think of Vagabond by Camp?
That's a good song. Yeah, I hit good voice, good. Yeah, it's
one of my
solid.
favorites.
I'll try to listen to him more.
What do you have at number 3?
Yeah, number 3, Virginia, Wind in the Night.
Virginia don't sound like she used to. Walking home late, smoking my lungs and whiskey burning.
I think this one should be on your list.
We'll see where it's at.
By the Head and the Heart at 52 plays. Okay, maybe number 1 for you. But yeah, 52 plays. Amazing song. We both love this song. And I don't know. Yeah, when that song came out, I was like, I think it was the first or second. Yeah, I think it was the first song they pre-released for the album, and I was like,
they did.
if this is the album, I'm gonna freak out.
It's gonna be insane. Yeah.
Amazing.
How many
song.
plays did you have on that?
52.
Wow, your plays are really, really low because mine are actually
Yeah,
high. This data is
even
kind
my
of
top play is
skewed.
not crazy high.
I think the minutes is probably pretty accurate because that seems accurate to me. But I
Should
think
be.
like the song plays and the album plays, they seem kind of off to me.
Yeah.
At my number 2, and I've talked about the song quite a bit once I found it, but it's Sedona by Houndmouth.
Hey there, Sedona, let me cut you a deal. I'm a little hungover and I may have to steal your soul. Well, hey, later, Hollywood, you're gone, but you're not.
Great song, really good one. Really enjoyed it. They have a couple songs from that album that are just really, really good. That I really enjoy. But yeah, I had that at 63 plays.
Yeah, I think I've heard you play it or something before. Because I don't think.
Yeah,
I
talked about it quite a bit. I don't
think I played this on my own really, but that's a good one.
Yeah.
All
right, what do you have at number 2?
This. Well, I don't know that it surprises me that's on here. I will randomly find, like when I'm shuffling or like when I'm like playing my recommended station or just having like my phone try to play stuff for me, I'll occasionally find a song and I'm like, oh, this is a really cool song. I made it out to my library now. Let me play it a million times in a row for a little bit. And this one somehow made it onto my top as number 2, and that is Watch and See by You could look it up quick if you want. Rachel Bobbitt.
Rachel Bobbitt.
Yeah. I tried to listen to a few of her other songs after I heard this one, and none of them like quite hit that well for me. But I don't know. I have a thing with like some. I'm trying to think what this song is. It's not rock. But I do like some. I do enjoy like with some rock music. Like female
Which one
vocalists.
was it again?
Watch and See. I think it's a newer song. I think it might have been this year or last year or something. But I find that like I do like enjoy like female vocalists with rock bands and stuff because there's like a good contrast. And this isn't rock, but like I do like there's just some random female vocalists that I'll like come across and like songs will jump out or artists will jump out with unique voices and stuff. And for whatever reason, this song like it hits that right spot. And as far as like flow, sound, whatever, it's just, and it's kind of unique sounding. Like it's not something that I would listen to a lot, but yeah, it's really cool. And for whatever reason, I must have played it enough to get it this high.
Wow, it's kind of it's an interesting song. You kind of have this thing is like Churches is the same way. Like you really like Churches, and they would be the same way. Interesting song. It's kind of wild. But at my number one, surprise, it's Virginia Wind in the Night. 69 plays. When this song came out, I think I listened to it on repeat for like 2 straight weeks. And that was no joke. I think that's the only thing I talked about for about 2 weeks. And then I overplayed it, got kind of dead, and then I just listened to it a little bit throughout the year. But yeah, one of the best songs out there. Yeah, especially by the Head and the Heart. That's probably still my favorite song. By the way.
And it was kind of cool because you are not near as into Head and the Heart as I am, and we both like came across that song. We're like, this is amazing. Yeah, it's
an incredible song. So
yeah.
Well, without further ado, what do you have at number one? I'm very curious.
Number one, Pepper, Death Cab for Cutie.
Kiss me just this one last time. Tell me that you once were mine.
We talked about this a little bit.
Really?
Off air.
Sergeant Pepper, like that one?
Yeah. Yep.
Sergeant
Pepper. That was my favorite. That was my favorite song from the album.
Really?
And that one was
an interesting one. Wow.
I got into a big, or maybe like it was only like a day or two. I played it a lot, but for like a day or two, I got into a big replay loop on it where I just like looped it for like 2 hours or something.
The word pepper in music is great. Sergeant Pepper, like the way he says it, it's really addictive. I get it. No, that's great.
It's very catchy.
Wow, that's incredible. I would not have picked that. I mean, yeah, that album is really, really good, but that's incredible.
Yeah. It's like it has like a good like the strum beat and whatever. Like when it starts, like it just kind of gets you into it, and it's an easy listen while still being unique. It has I don't know. Yeah, he's a great voice. All of that. Like love Death Cab, but yeah, for whatever reason that one stuck with me. And 66 plays on that one, which wasn't even your number one. But yeah, I'm almost surprised that you're like Virginia wasn't like even higher for you. I don't know. It feels the plays feel so low on some of these songs.
They do.
Like I played this song so many times, right? And I don't know, but yeah.
No, they really did. It honestly seems like the data is somewhat skewed.
It's hard to know because
the minutes is correct. I think the minutes is correct.
It's interesting because you would have like if I would be offline listening, like can it count that? And like you know, most of our music is probably downloaded. It should be able to catch that if it's connected to the internet, but is it always checking that and always trying to record that data or whatever? I don't know. Yeah,
that's what's interesting. I think the plays and the songs, the albums and songs plays are off. Minutes is accurate to me, but it's very interesting.
Yeah, because I wonder if it wouldn't be better at tracking streams or like on albums, maybe it can more accurately track albums because it only pings the server or whatever every so often with data. But I don't know. That seems kind of odd. But yeah.
Well, that's great. Well, so we basically, just to recap here, we talked about top 3 genres, we talked about top 5, and they were both the same. Yeah. Talked about top 5 artists, top 5 albums, top 5 songs. Let's just recap and end this episode basically going down through our number one artist, like just your number one artist, your number one album, and your number one songs from 2022. And then I'll go first. You do that, and then we'll end the episode on that.
Okay, cool.
So yeah, again, just recapping, my number one artist from 2022 was Switchfoot with 3,834 minutes, or almost 64 hours. My number
That's
one
nuts.
song, yeah, it is pretty crazy. My number one album was Cease to Begin by Band of Horses with 94 plays. Again, I don't know if that 94 plays is accurate. Number one song was Virginia Win in the Night from The Head and the Heart with 69 plays. Again, I don't know if those plays are accurate. But yeah, just from a phenomenal year with phenomenal music. My favorite thing from this year was just getting to go to so many great concerts. You and me went to two of them together, Brendon. We went to the Killers concert and the national concert. Really enjoyed that. I'm looking forward to 2023 with some great music. Hopefully going to the Lumineers concert and some more concerts. I love concerts, dude. But yeah, great music this year. Looking forward to next year.
All right. So my top artist was Jimmy Eat World with 2,943 minutes. And then my top album was, if I can find it here, Invented by Jimmy Eat World with 285 minutes. And then my top song was Pepper by Death Cab for Cutie with 66 plays.
You should have finished off by having your number one song, well, actually not your number song. Your number one song being also from Jimmy Eats World.
I know. I mean, I can say sad. my number 1/0, because it's number 10 song was if I could find it, what's it called? Where did I put this? Why am I not? I didn't have a screenshot of that. It's on this list. Okay. My number 10 song was "Hard Is Hard to Find" by Jimmy Eat World with 39 plays. There we go.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Very interesting stuff. Well, this has been a fun episode. I was telling you before we got on the air, I was really excited to do this episode. I love data. I love analysis. That's what I do for a job. I love data. And this is really fun for me to just kind of recap. And today is December 31st. We're recording this on December 31st, the last day of this year. I think it was so fitting. And I'm just really excited for next year. So this podcast, we've started this in April of 2022. It's, we've had some miscellaneous episodes over the last couple of years, but we started it in 2022 and really found our niche in what we love to do. And I would love to continue this on every end of the year, do one of these episodes, just kind of see where we're at from next year. And then maybe next year's episode, we could kind of compare back to this year's notes.
Yeah, that would be very interesting.
We will be getting back on track with our next episode of Starset. I will tell you now, I am ecstatic about it. I've been listening to them nonstop. They might be my my top 5 for next year. Starset's a good rock band. Yeah. Brendon, thanks for joining us on today. I am looking forward to 2023 as we go into the rest of the day. And thanks for listening. We'll see you next time.
Happy New Year, everyone.